Okay, sorry. So scene size up and scene management. The first thing that I was going to look at is just talking about what a size up is. So it's a continual evaluation of information received. So this starts from the time that our pager goes off until the scene is completely done and we're back. You know, basically have the scene under control for the most part and leaving the scene. So we're constantly reevaluating, constantly thinking about different factors. The one thing, as I put in my email, this is not just the responsibility of the chiefs, the officers, it's everybody's responsibility. You know, we talk a lot about making sure that, you know, everybody looks at, you know, it's not just the safety officer's job to look for safety issues. If anybody sees anything, they need to say something immediately to make sure it gets corrected. And again, just looking at the 5 major areas here that we're looking at is the receipt of the alarm, the en route responding, arrival inside the fire building or area, and then the post operations. So three ways that we're going to collect this information is visual. So obviously things that we can see from the outside, looking at doing reconnaissance. So going up and looking inside the building, you know, researching things, go find something, so that sort of thing. And then also using our pre-plans and our familiarity factor. So, you know, we've been in a situation like this before. Have we been on another call like this? Have we read something? Have we done some training on it? So those 3 factors are really how we're collecting and doing our scene size up. One of the things too that I think may help us as well, and this is again, making sure that people understand what direction they've been given. Either whoever it is on the radio gives a direction or verbally gives a direction. One of the things to do is maybe start to think about using an active listening technique, is what is called reflecting back. So if someone says, you know, like dispatch calls us and they tell us that, you know, to respond to 123 Elm Street for an ill person. When we respond back, we can say 7200 Lindsey Fire is clear on the call to 123 Elm Street for an ill person. Or if it's proceed with caution, you know, if the officer on scene says proceed with caution, instead of just rescue 3 is clear, L18 rescue 3 is clear on proceed with caution. That gives the person that talking, making sure they understood, and the person that gave the instruction, making sure it's being followed to what they had said. Now, you don't have to repeat everything everybody says, but some of the things that you want to make sure that was heard and that you understood. Or in the next one, Lindsey Command Tanker 2 is clear on staging at Toledo Edison. Instead of clear at staging and then they park somewhere that, you know, wasn't supposed to be. One of the things I also, with doing scene size up, I called and talked to Chief Jackson this morning. So you know, what defines a mass casualty incident? So it's an incident that overwhelms the local resources to make a response. I guess some of these questions I don't think got covered when Amanda came. We talked more about the actual tactical side of ribbons and that sort of thing. So does anybody know or remember her talking about the levels of mass casualty, what levels they are?
I don't, Jason.
Yes, 1, 2, and 3, but
so the ones that Jeff gave me was level 1 is 6 to 15 people, and level 2 is more than 16 people. I know I'd read it online, but I wasn't sure if there's really anything in the protocol from Sandusky County. So again, does anybody know who has the authority to declare a mass casualty incident?
anyone.
It'd probably be the first officer that arrives.
Doesn't have to be an officer. Any person can see they have more than 6 to 15 and call a level 1.
So
any EMT or whatever.
It's the incident commander. So if you're an EMT and you're on site and you're not the incident commander, the incident commander is the one that's supposed to make the call. That's at least what Jeff communicated to me. It should be the incident commander, so we don't have, you know, someone call a mass casualty, maybe an EMT close to the car, and then the incident commander all of a sudden starts getting flooded with radio traffic about questions about a mass casualty. So next question, what protocol is triggered when a mass casualty is declared? And I'm talking specific for us in Sandusky County.
Well, the hospital's notified is one of them, I know. Not sure of any else.
I'm sure we're going to have additional tones for more EMS and or fire departments that are in you know, mutual aid with us.
So actually nothing happens. There is no protocol. So basically, if you declare a mass casualty, everything, there is no procedural or there's no protocol. So everything is based on what is being communicated, and then the chiefs, Chief Jackson, the fire chiefs, whoever that might be, start determining what needs to happen at that point. So if the hospital needs called, Chief Jackson's going to have to make that determination. If he needs to call in additional squads from outside the county or wherever, he needs to make that decision. If he needs to call in off-duty personnel, he needs to make that decision. So really, at the end of the day, when I asked him, I said, what actually happens when you call a mass casualty? I said, and he explained it. I said, so really, at the end of the day, I can say there's a mass casualty and it really doesn't do anything. And he said, that's pretty much what happens. It's just going to be, you're declaring it, but there's no procedure at the county, at the dispatch, to do anything about it. It's kind of just going to have to be on the fly. So the MCI kits are located on the driver's side, inside middle compartment in Rescue 3 in a black bag is where the kit's located.
There's actually two of them, right?
And then is there one in 5? I know there's two kits that have the ribbons, but I thought there was only one black bag that's in Rescue 3.
I thought there was 2 bags inside of one bag in Rescue 3 that
correct.
we separated and you go out.
Right. There's two of the bags with the trail marking tape in them, but they're both in the bag in 3. I think that's the only place we've got that.
That is correct. Yeah, because when we got those from the county, when this thing was all set up or through the EMA or whatever, we only received one MCI kit. But you're correct what you're saying. There's 2 marking bags within that with all the tags and ribbons. Yep.
So it's underneath my gear on the driver's side, inside middle compartment of Rescue 3 right now. So one of the things as I was doing my research, there's different acronyms, and we use acronyms throughout the fire service for all kinds of stuff. But the one that I thought I really liked, and it kept things simple, and I think will help us get our radio traffic to really dialed into a pinpoint description, is ideal. So an ideal size up. So if, I got some exercises, so I don't know if you guys want to take just some quick notes to remember this acronym, and then I've got a couple of exercises here we'll try together just to kind of help us work our way through this. So the I stands for identifying arriving units. So we do that pretty well now. Everybody announces, L10 arriving on scene, or L12, or Rescue 3, or Engine 4. We do pretty well on that. We've got that pretty well under control. The next one is describe what you see. So this one here, I got some, in the further slides going forward, I got some things that maybe to think about when we're pulling up, and what we want to describe specifically, and what we need to look at. Then after we describe what we see, we're going to explain what we're going to do. And I think this, when I was looking through some of the videos and doing some research, I think this is one that might help us so that you don't have This is, you know, L18 arriving on scene, 2-vehicle crash, and then the radio we just don't get anything, and then somebody's calling saying, well, what do you got 2 minutes later? So hopefully this will help us explain, you know, I'm going to assess patients, or we're going to stretch a hose line, or we're going to do this or do that. Again, we do this for the most part, I think, you know, listening, thinking back to most of our radio transmissions, we got pretty good at this. You know, you're assuming command, so telling who's in command. And then the last one, again, I think that we can also work towards, you know, just improving. Not that we're doing it wrong or that we're doing it terribly, but I think there's always room for improvement. Is the last thing we would say on our Sizeup is letting income units know what we want them to do or where to go. So, you know, like the other day, you know, Dave was out on 20 there, and you know, he assessed the situation and said responding units, you know, stage at Root's parking lot. So that gave us that were driving the trucks coming in, we weren't kind of slowing down, then calling him once we got on the scene and say, no, what are we supposed to do? And trying to swerve through traffic or get over. It was nice to know that's where we were headed, so we could go straight to that point. Now the next couple slides, I'm gonna break these down just a little bit. So just a reminder, again, you know, I know it's old habits are hard to break, but with us going automatic aid, and hopefully in the future here within Sandusky County going automatic aid, if we remember to use our engine 4 tanker 2 and not L4 L2, especially we're okay with it because we know what we're talking about. But when we start mutual aiding, especially if you think about it when people are coming at us, I have no idea what X3 is. Woodville probably knows exactly what it is, but I don't know what X3 is or H2. And then a couple times, if we're not sure the person's radio number, and I'm a good one for this, I don't know everybody's radio number. I'm just going to call you by name, and it'll eliminate, you know, unneeded radio traffic and confusion of who you're actually trying to talk to. So describe what you see. So you know, this is something we do, I think, again, extremely well. We're always has safety in the forefront, is looking at scene safe. So this is just a couple things under D that we're looking at. So power lines, you know, is it a commercial vehicle? Does it have hazmat? Is it a crime scene? Do we have traffic concerns, weather conditions? Or, you know, again, depending on the situation and the severity, bystanders, family, good Samaritans, you know, trying to come in and help. You know, we have to secure the scene to make sure it's safe for us and safe for everybody we're working with. So when we look at a vehicle accident, you know, one of the things when we're talking about describing what we see is we talk about this in the first responders, looking at the mechanism of injury. So if we can get down to where instead of just saying a 2-vehicle accident, you know, I'm arriving on scene, 2-vehicle accident, I'm arriving on scene, 2 vehicles, 1 passenger car, 1 semi, or you know, 3 passenger vehicles, or, you know, being specific where, you know, the other night just listening on the radio when the call from, I think it was down at the corner, came in, it just said trailer on fire. So they didn't say camper. Now I don't know, maybe the caller didn't specify, but when we get on scene, you know, we can say you know, a towable trailer or a motorhome is going to be different. You know, they both still have the LP tanks, but the motorhome, you got a bigger fuel load, either gas or diesel. So when we look at it, one of the things when we're talking about it, again, don't need to be a dissertation, but if you can give guys some kind of idea of what we're getting ourselves into. Second thing, the type of impact. Was it head on? Was it rolled over? Is it rear end? You know, just giving us as the guys coming in a mental picture of what we're kind of going to be up against. Collided with what? So was it with another vehicle? Or again, I think we do fairly well on some of these, especially if it's a telephone pole, if it's a tree, building, or was it a movable object that's fence, mailbox, person, animal? And where are the vehicles located? So, you know, are they in the center median? Are they in the ditch? Are they clear out in the field? You know, looking at it from an accessibility issue of, you know, we got to be thinking where are we going to be able to get to them, and what might we need to get to them. And then fifth, I guess, and the one that's easiest probably to see is, was there airbag deployment? So again, if we're making this part of our scene size up, that could be something that would be important for the guys on the EMS coming in. If we say, you know, 2 passenger vehicles, head-on collision, they hit each other, side impact, they're on the roadway, and we have no airbag deployment. You can see how that sounds a whole lot different and gives you a lot better mental picture than, yep, we're on scene, two cars in the ditch, or something like that. Number of patients, and again, you know, this is something that, you know, sometimes as soon as you roll up on scene, you're not quite sure what you get into. But if there's a definite, you know, and we all been on enough calls, we can definitely tell that there's been someone ejected. We can definitely tell there's probably entrapment. Dead, sometimes we don't know. And if we don't know, we can say unknown, you know, it's unknown, I'll investigate. Just so we, you know, kind of keep it in the back of our minds from that standpoint. So those are the ones that I kind of came across for describe what you see from a vehicle accident standpoint. And then again, these are comprehensive lists. Actually, the bullet points on the right-hand side of these slides came from an SOG that I found that was very well written. And they laid out these different areas on the left side that they kind of look at when they assess a building. So when we pull up again, what size are we building are we looking at? Is it single story? Is it a house trailer? Is it 2-story? Is it, you know, a lot of us have enough construction background that we could give a pretty decent description without getting into too many of the weeds. You know, roof, you know, we got fire through the roof, you know, what's going on there, just giving a good description of the building. You know, the fire, usually we do a pretty good job of this. You know, guys will say there's nothing showing, or there's, you know, have some smoke showing. One of the things that, you know, when I was reading through these, you know, there's a lot of things about reading smoke. You know, instead of just saying smoke showing, what kind of smoke? Is it heavy, thick black smoke? Is it gray? Is it coming out the eaves? Is it puffing out the door? You know, again, it's something we can quickly see and communicate on a quick size up. And again, your initial size up is going to be very quick. And then as you know, you do your walk around your 360, you can, you know, reassess and make another size up on the radio if you need. Occupancy, we don't have, you know, again, this was from I think a larger department's SOG, but, you know, we have some businesses, we have some special occupancy with the group homes. Over on 19, we got more of the businesses kind of that and concentrated in that area. But, you know, when we're rolling up, most of us pretty well know the businesses. Our community is small enough and we got a pretty good idea. But, you know, I'm not quite sure at Unican, you know, depending on shifts, or, you know, a Hasselbach's, there's quite a few employees during the day. So, you know, just talking about thinking about the occupancy at the time. In life hazards, you know, what location of the occupants in relation to the fire. So are they, again, this would be something we could talk about when we talk to the dispatch. If it's called in, you know, generally a lot of us will say, you know, if they don't already say, you know, the caller advised that everybody was out, that might be a question that we ask. Or was this called in by a neighbor, not the homeowner? You know, is it automatic fire alarm? You know, what goes on there? Accessibility. So when we, you know, we're looking at this, when we had the fire over at Yonkers, you know, that was a long, somewhat narrow driveway. So, you know, we had two engines in there. I think ours was first in, or Gibsonburg's was first in, and then ours vice versa. And, you know, we were backing tankers in, you know, down the road. Would it have been, since Gibsonburg's engine was parked relatively close to ours, would be been better off to keep the tank at the road and then have the truck just push the water? Or, you know, again, hindsight's always 20/20, but just stuff to consider. The pond was there, you know, once we got things established. You know, look at that. And then obviously, again, other things to consider: time of day, night, day of the week, if it's a season, special hazards, holidays, special events. You know, the wind, rain, snow, cold, humidity, visibility. You know, if we're out on the road, we've been out there in freezing cold, it's been hot, it's been raining. You know, we've been out in all the conditions. You know, and here with everything that's going on, I'm sure everybody's seeing it in the news. Hopefully we don't ever have to deal with it around here, but, you know, a strike or a riot, you know, something like that is going on, or a protest potentially that we would get involved with. When we, you know, again, after we've described the scene as best as we can and try to give a clear mental picture for everyone coming in, you know, we need to explain, okay, now what are we going to do? So if it's an accident, there's nothing wrong with saying, I'll be out and I'll be assessing patients. Or if we pull up in your engine 4 and you're first on scene, officer's going to be doing a 360 walk around. We're going to be stretching a hose to the front of the building or to the side of the building or to the garage, and, you know, performing 360. So, you know, again, just what are you doing? So instead of just being radio silence, and then someone else having to get on the radio and say, well, what do you got? Or what are you doing? Or where are you at? You know, give a little bit of just a brief, here's what I'm going to be doing, and I'll radio back as soon as I have any updated information. And then the assuming command, again, we do pretty well on this. You know, so-and-so will be in command, and then if it's relieved, the one thing I think with doing that is that we could probably be a little bit better at is if the command gets switched. You know, if someone takes command and then Russ comes on scene, or Dave or whomever, and the command gets switched, sometimes we radio to say, you know, L10 is now in command, and sometimes I think it gets missed. But again, not that it has to be perfect, but always somewhere to improve upon. We do have the incident command vests on our in the trucks. One is in Rescue 4 in the middle box, and the other one is in Rescue 5 underneath the armrest on the front seat. So
we also have 1 and 3, do we not, on top of the pre-plan box?
yeah, sorry, it's in 3, not 4.
Not 4.
It's in 3. Right. Yeah, it's in 3, sorry, on top of the pre-plan box. So like the other night, I know, or not the other night, but the call we had over in Elmore, you know, there were guys standing all over the place, and that's one thing that we noticed real apparently was you really didn't know who was in charge. You know, when we got ready to leave or we were doing something, you weren't really sure who to talk to. So if we can remember whoever's in command, and if you're passing that vest, it should be a pretty easy place for us to make a location. Or, you know, somebody walks up and says, hey, you know, patrol, I need to talk to incident command. Okay, it's Russ over there. Well, I don't know Russ. Okay, the guy, he's got the vest on. It's easy to point him out and locate him. And also with assuming command, you know, you're also thinking this through the whole way, but I just threw it into the assuming command part, was what other resources are we going to need? So, you know, tanker spill, if it's hazmat, are we going to be able to contain it with what we have? Do we need the hazmat team from the county? Utilities, generally we're in pretty good shape there, you know, is getting utility disconnect, but I don't think that I can remember we ever had issue with the gas line that we had to do anything with or call anybody for, but that's always a potential. And speaking of that, one of the thoughts I had is, do we have a list anywhere? Dave, you probably got a list of like Columbia Gas and stuff for emergencies. Or would we just,
I have a gas blowing number that we can call, yes.
so or what, I guess what would we do at that point? If it was gas, do we call the county and say we need somebody out here because we have gas rupture?
Right.
Usually that's what we've always done, Jason, is just get a hold of dispatch because they've got all the emergency numbers for all them people.
Okay. So just, I guess as I'm going through this, I thought it'd be good for everybody to kind of know, as we're working through this. Heavy equipment, do we need wreckers? Do we need excavators, backhoes, cranes? Those are things that are going to take time to get and mobilize. So if we're thinking we're needing them, we need to get a hold of dispatch and get a hold of that information, or get a hold of someone and get it going. We according to our new medical director, we haven't used flight near as much as we used to. It's a wrap and go, or a transport and go. And then, law enforcement, one of the things, again, looking at drugs, alcohol, weapons, drug paraphernalia. Is the person violent? Do we need, it isn't our job really to do restraint. That's their job. And I think we've talked about in our first responder class, when we're talking about this, is, we can't really make them do anything from a go to the hospital standpoint, but if the law enforcement deems it, then it's a whole different story. So that's something that we can look at. And also crowd control. There's been a couple incidences where we've had bystanders. The one that comes to mind, I guess the forefront, is the kids, down at the river. There was people standing everywhere, and the sheriff's office did pretty well in patrol of keeping everybody back. But, things to think about when we're looking at what kind of situation we're getting ourselves into. And then L, like I said, the last one is letting the income units know what we want them to do or where we want them to go. So do we want them to stage? Do we want them a certain place on the fire ground? When we have the accidents, if they're blocking the roadway, do we think to the point of saying, if 4 is en route and 6 is out after that, do we want 4 to proceed normally coming in from the west, and then 6 take the country block and come in from the east, so we have trucks on both sides of the road, something like that. And again, just to reiterate, I think everybody on the call tonight's pretty versed in it, but I wanted to put it in here for the recording at least, is that, we talk about proceed with caution. That means your lights and siren are on and you just lower your speed. It's not turn your siren off and leave your lights on and lower your speed. The lights and siren is an all or nothing. They're either both on or they're both off. And then if we're responding normal traffic, it's no light and no siren, just as you would be driving your personal vehicle, obeying the speed limit, stop signs, the whole deal. So before we get in, I was just going to kind of walk through, the tone going forward. Is there anybody have any, comments or anything that I maybe missed, or we can talk about through the ideal?
The only comment, Jason, and it's not about the ideal necessarily, but the one where you had the, what do you see? And if we have electric lines, when we had that semi from Martin's go off of 106 right there at the turnpike, talked with the guy from the Edison, and, we said, well, they're dead because they're laying on the ground and everything else. But we had that discussion, but I just want to remind everyone else, if we got lines that's on the ground or on a car, they're going to be assumed live until the Edison gets there and tells us that they're not. We're not going to take that chance of saying, well, they got to be down because they're laying on the ground and they're grounded, because it doesn't, that doesn't necessarily cut it. So that's the only thing I want to bring up about that. If we got lines down, we're going to treat them live until the Edison gets there. And if we can't, do anything and move in the car or anything else, won't be until the Edison tells us that those lines are dead.
So again, that's the importance of, even if they're not on the ground, if we've got a truck fire below lines, that would be one thing. We have overhead lines within 25 feet of this vehicle, or whatever the case may be. So again, just if we think about, we know what we're looking at, and like I said, I'm not criticizing anyone, because I know I'm not the best at calling out things if I'm ever first on scene. But if we think about, we're trying to let the guys get a real good mental picture of what they're walking into, and that's going to make our scene safer. That's going to make our rescue more efficient. That's going to make our fire more tactical, the whole way around. So again, just want to go through maybe from start to finish here on a call, some things that maybe we can look at or talk about. So when the tone dispatch goes off, try to listen closely to the address. I know, sometimes my pager's out in the kitchen or it's turned down, but they all have the repeat button on, and, try to avoid asking the dispatch too many times to repeat the address or ask for crossroads numerous times. We've got the iPads. I know when I get my phone, before I walk out, I put my cell phone I am responding, and right next to my I am responding icon is a Google icon. I just quickly tap in the search bar, I hit the speak to text, and I just say the address into my phone, and it actually will pull up the address, and even if I don't map it, it pulls up the address and keeps it in my phone. So if I'm on my way, I don't have to try to press my pager or wait till hear somebody where we're going. It's in my phone. And then we've also got the Google Maps is, I guess, what I was getting at. So if we're in the truck and you're there first, like Jim does a lot of times, he'll grab the tablet, type in the address, and get it displayed so that everybody's on the same page. I am responding. We're doing, I would say, an 85, 90% job on this. Sometimes the trucks leave or people aren't punching in when they're coming to the scene. But we're, again, I think it's still somewhat new for us, but this is really, I think, going to be critical, especially when we start using mutual aid and other people are using it. And not necessarily just that, but just for us. A lot of times if you ring in the truck and select the truck to say going to the scene before the truck moves, if you can remember, look, I got to get the I am responding open and I got to press that to scene. That truck's being tracked. So it should eliminate some issue of saying, well, what's the crossroads, or where exactly are you at? Or if you're off the road, back a long lane or something like that, at least if you get in the area, you can use the tracker. And I always put my, I don't need to know where I'm going. I try to get somewhere close to where I think I'm going to be going, and leave my my I am responding app open, and I can see the trucks start kind of congregating. And then also too, if we're using those maps, hopefully this, I don't know when there's even an expected date for the dispatch, but at some point when the dispatch gets their information and we're automatically mapping, remember our pre-planned icons are on the I am responding map. So I'd hate for us to get to a home, possibly maybe for a medical call, that we have those personal pre-plans for people with disabilities, and we happen to miss it because we're not using the mapping or looking at the mapping. We're handing out the cards and doing that sort of thing, but again, hopefully that'll make it a little bit more automated once the dispatch center gets up and running, if and when at some point. Clearing the call. So I think our protocol, at least that I remember, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but to clear the call, you need to have sight of one of the stations, station 1 or station 2, before clearing the call. One of the things that I think we need to make sure we're not doing is trying to estimate a time that we're going to be en route. A couple of times, just listening again, I want to make sure I'm saying I'm not criticizing anyone, is just that keeping it clean to say we'll be en route in 30 seconds or we're going to be en route in a minute. That's really immaterial. You're en route when you're en route. And if it takes longer than that, it takes longer. If you're en route faster, you're faster. But to give an estimated time of when you're going to leave doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Just we're clear on the call. And then down at the bottom, I just got 7200 Lindsey Fire L, such and such a number. We're clear on the call. If you can possibly, again, generally the type of call or the description is easy to remember. If you've got that ability to have that address in front of you or have remembered it, repeat it back to 7200 again, not necessarily for their benefit, but if it's being said over the radio, that might help someone not have to call and ask for directions or something else like that. It's just another announcement. So first truck en route, make sure that you put the truck, to scene and the IM responding before leaving the station. Again, the reason I say before leaving the station, I know I run into it myself just by walking into my garage. If I try to do my IM responding sitting in the truck in my garage, by that time my phone's about halfway between the Wi-Fi and connecting to data, a cell tower, and it kind of sits and I get the blue circle does this till I get out of the driveway and get about in front of Ron and Kathy Berger's house. It'll finally click on. And sometimes it takes my response and sometimes it doesn't. So if you can remember, with the trucks are the same way. Before the truck moves, that's one of the protocols. Put your seatbelt on, make sure everybody else is seat belted and sit it down. Doors, cabinets are shut, and you put yourself use the IM responding to go to scene. Kind of hopefully getting in a habit of when you tell the dispatch you're going into scene, that's when you're gonna hit that on the iPad. So again, trying to use that repeating thing again, just for not necessarily the dispatches good or need it, but just another way to reiterate to the our guys that are listening on the radio where we're headed and what type of incident. So 7200 Lindsey Fire Engine 4. Go ahead, Lindsey Fire. Lindsey Fire Engine 4 is en route to 123 Main Street for report of a fall, or Lindsey Fire Engine 4 is en route to corner of State Route 590 and 20 for a trailer fire. Again, just repeating it back to them, and again for our guys to catch some of that. If I know we do this once in a while. If we think they may have some additional information, we can request and say, do you have any more information about this call? Nothing wrong with requesting crossroads. I know that can, really help, but just try to limit multiple people on the same call asking for the same thing. Are all occupants out of the structure? Normally on a structure fire, that's one of the things where, we want to know is everybody out? Other things could be, if it's an ill person or a chest pain, was this called in? Sometimes they'll tell us, this is a medical alarm, or was this called in by the person and they're on the phone talking to you, or was this called in by a bystander and they're on the floor unresponsive? So maybe things that they can answer, maybe things that they can't. I was hoping the kids would be behind you so they could see my graphics, but apparently I think they're out on a walk with Aunt Jenny. Put the apparatus to scene and the IM responding before leaving the station. This is for the other trucks. And then again, our protocol is that the trucks following the first truck that notifies dispatch notifies the first truck out. So engine 4, rescue 3 is en route with 4. And ask any pertinent questions that we might have at that point that possibly, again, if we need crossroads, maybe we can, ask the first truck rather than calling back and asking dispatch again. Vehicles on scene, just again, looking at a reminder, we've been doing pretty well. If working in the roadway, position the apparatus pointing away from the work zone and use the truck as a traffic buffer. We talk about that in I think We cover it some in our driving, and it's also in, our traffic incident management. Get that truck turned, get the wheels turned away from our work zone. And if somebody comes flying into the back of that truck, at least they're going to hopefully deflect them. Speaking of, did you guys see the ODOT truck that got struck? It pushed the bed and crumpled it up into a triangle. Said it's the 14th truck to be hit in a zone since February. So people are not paying attention, which we all know that. But it was, hopefully nobody was hurt bad. It said a couple people were injured, but personal vehicles should be parked as far away from the scene as reasonably possible. Usually we do a pretty decent job on that. We've had some issues with a couple people parking in yards or driving through yards. We need to watch that. It's not that critical. The road was right there, and we weren't that far away. There was really no reason to get off the driveway and drive around people to get to the yard to be closer to the house. Don't block driveways, crossroads, or intersections, including other driveways. So, if we can help it, if you pull in somebody else's driveway, pull up far enough that if they need to get out, they're not blocked in. Or, if we got something on a road and you're pulling off to the side road, try to keep the vehicle off to the side so that it keeps that traffic moving as well. This is one that I happened to think about, and I guess I'm looking for some maybe feedback from you guys. But for vehicle accidents, if we can safely get around, should we be parking? And I'm talking personal vehicles at this point. Mainly, is parking in front of the accident scene instead of stacking ourselves up in a row behind it. Just from a standpoint of generally, whichever direction we're coming from is generally where the other trucks are going to be coming, and EMS or whoever else, patrol, generally is going to be coming the same direction. And then we get there, and if you're in 6, let's say, and you pull up and you can see 4 and 3 is already up there, and there's 5 pickup trucks along the side of the road, you always kind of pull over thinking to yourself, okay, do I go up there because I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get over anywhere, or do I just stay back here, and then ultimately at some point we got to walk back and get something, or that sort of thing. I guess I was curious what you guys' thoughts were on that.
I would say, Jason, if we can get past it, I agree. Put our vehicles in the front. Same reason what you said. Most of them are going to be coming our way now. Depending on, we know that if we got an accident, we ought to be able to tell from which way we're coming. For instance, if we had an accident on 69 and at Chemitrol, or 69 and 590, and somebody's coming from Gibsonburg, you're a pretty good chance that you could have one coming from behind you, or you may be having one coming the opposite direction. So I think you're going to have to kind of use your head on that a little bit. But I think for most of it, yes, if we can get around to the front and get out of the way of the back, then the actual rescue vehicles and the EMS would have better access to where they're going without having to drive along a berm of a road to get around all the vehicles that's on there, especially if we got a single a narrow roadway.
Right. And like you say, it's all kind of situational or incident dependent, but at the same time, just thinking about it, maybe if we can get in the habit of doing that, not getting to the station super early or driving the first truck out. I know I've pulled up and I thought, okay, I can radio up to command and see if they need me up there, but you can't quite see if there's enough room past the 6 pickups and then the other things sitting there. Get that stuff ahead of the scene and keep things going. Personal vehicles, we've talked about this before, should never go against the flow or be parked against flow of traffic. If we have, this happens sometimes on Route 20, if we have to cross over and drive backwards, always make sure before you get out, don't leave your vehicle parked in the wrong direction, just in case something were to come awry, or we're getting ready to leave, we don't have 13 vehicles turning around. Turn it around before you get out. Apparatus should only be parked opposing traffic if there are no other alternatives available. So just, again, review of some of the things that to refresh our memories. So the first unit on scene, notify dispatch using the IDEAL acronym. So again, not that we have to follow this verbatim, but I've printed up cards, and if it's all right with you, Russ, I'm going to laminate these and put them in the trucks near the radio to just give the guys a reminder. Maybe is when they're pulling up and they grab the radio or they're jumping out. Something that they can look at just to refresh their memory real quick. So 7200 Lindsey Fire Engine 4. Go ahead, Lindsey. Lindsey Fire Engine 4 is on scene. Single story, single family dwelling. The front porch is on fire. Engine 4 will be stretching a line. L18 is in command. Incoming units will need a tanker operation set up at the road. If it's possibly I tried to think of how I would maybe describe the one on 20 the other day. So Lindsey Fire Engine 4 is on scene. 3 vehicles in the center median on the westbound lanes of State Route 20 in front of Roots Poultry. We will be assessing patients. L18 is in command. Responding units staged in the rear of the parking lot at Roots Poultry, which eventually we got to all that. And I know at first that probably didn't know that the units needed to stage potentially. But just as an example, I guess. So I've got some stuff here. So we've got, I think 7 or 8 people. So Lewis, if you want to unmute yourself, I'm going to just go around and we're going to take a look at a video and just pretend that you're the first guy on scene, ignore the fire guy on the front porch, and just give us a description, no right, wrong, or indifferent answer. We're not going to criticize you, but just to give us some practice. So go ahead and I'm going to play this. I don't think you guys should hear it, but I'll play it and you can kind of tell us what you would say as far as what you're seeing. Can you see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay, what would be your assessment if you walked up and there was no ladders, no fire? What would you radio?
My assessment would be Engine 4 on scene, smoke and flames from the second story. And then I don't know what all else we need other than smoke and flames from second story. We're gonna need tankers and manpower. Might want to get mutual aid en route.
Okay.
Get another department coming.
So we have identified ourselves. We have described what we've seen. We have explained what we're going to do. So do we explain what we're going to do? Maybe you did, maybe I didn't catch it.
No, I didn't. I just said on scene, flames and smoke showing from the second story.
Okay. Assuming command and you let other people know what we're going to do.
Okay.
So I think good. Again, no right, wrong, or indifferent answer. The only, as looking at these, maybe something else to think about would be, obviously we know it's at night. 2 cars in the driveway, unless we've confirmed that we've got people out of the house. You may want to go up and look in the cars and see if there's car seats. That would tell us if potentially we had kids or if this is just, a single couple with no kids or whatnot. Again, just something to practice with. All right. John, if you want to unmute, I'll give you this one.
Okay. Engine 4 is arriving on scene. L18 is going to be in command. We have got a 2-story residential house with fire showing on the bottom floor, but we have smoke coming out of the second floor and out of the roof of this building. We have exposure on the I got to think if I'm on the A side here, it would be on the B side. It's about probably 25 feet is all the second exposure is from this building. We are going to need water. We're going to be laying in 2-inch and 3/4 lines to start with. And we need to get tankers set up and mutual aid with the other departments, probably 2 other departments at this point. We're going to need everyone packed up at this point that is available to get SCBAs on.
Okay, good. One thing that I'm going to let this zoom in. You can hear it if I actually played the video, but you can hear this air conditioning unit hissing real loud. So it's about ready to rupture.
Yep.
But I figured with everybody on it, you might not be able to hear it, but good. Sounds good. All right, Russ, I'll give you this one here. So this one kind of goes from, this is when they actually got on scene, but this is the person taping it, I guess apparently when they first called in. So.
Okay, L4 is on scene. We got fire and smoke coming out of the first floor garage. On the right-hand end of the A side, we've got exposure. On the B side to another home. And we're going to have to get water from a hydrant, get up to the fire with LDH, and we're going to need a second alarm, mutual aid, and we're going to have to get people involved here. Right now it's only on the first floor, but it's going to spread quick, so we need to get water on this thing and get other people coming, and we're going to have to set up either a tank, depending, I don't know what we got, whether we got hydrants or not, but for us we would just have to get cistern set up and dumping water and getting other fire departments to come to give us water.
So yeah, I like that. The one thing, again, just thinking through, how we may be able to help ourselves is, when we say we need to establish tankers, we probably know what road this is on or what street this is on. Say this is, I don't know, Lincoln in Lindsey, is we want tankers entering, come down, I don't know, whatever the street is there, this street to Lincoln and come this way. So we don't have one tanker coming on one way in Lincoln and one coming the other way. So when, again, just something to think about. There would be a quick way to say, because the tanker inevitably driving that enough to, you always say, well, which way do you want me to come in? So we might be able to head that off and be able to establish that this is the way we want that to come in. So I'm going to just show you guys, this is a minute 54. The person that had it, when that video started, if you notice the dormer above that garage, the siding's already melted off. So it hadn't just started, but I'm going to forward it here to, this is 4 minutes. So 2 minutes later, this is what that place looks like. There's 9 minutes. They're still not there. Now they're just starting to drag a hose.
Look at the siding on the other house.
Yeah. So that's radiating a lot of heat, So if it happened to be, again, just thinking through our scenarios, if this is what we walked up to rather than the one where it was just barely burning, we've got a fully involved structure. Siding is completely melted on, the adjoining building, heavy black smoke, intense heat, tankers come in, however, everybody's doing a great job. Just, it takes practice, but hopefully trying to use this ideal will get us a little better way of assessing and going in that order.
Hey,
All right.
Jay,
Yeah.
real quick here, just, what I see on this when you're showing that, the time, and I understand, as they say, it doubles every minute in size. That's where sometimes, yet you still have to be cautious and safe, but, sometimes them extra 2 minutes that you get there quicker than what if you would just put a button around, you can see, how that scene can change in 2 minutes.
Right. Absolutely.
But you still got to be safe. I'm not saying that. So.
Yep. Okay. Dave, you're up on this one.
I got a quick comment, Jason, before you
Sure.
start. If I can.
Yep.
So I understand we're sitting here and we're doing this in a scenario. Russ and John's assessment was 30 seconds, 20, 25, 30 seconds long. I've been in first on scene on 3 or 4 structure fires, and on 2 of them, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. So we got to be a little bit careful. It depends on when you get on scene. If you get on scene and the other trucks aren't rolling too much, that's fine. But I remember it wasn't down here at 590 and 20 just now, but the one on 106, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. I tried every time I keep my mic, I was getting run over with trucks, and this truck's en route and that truck's en route and all that. So when I showed up on 590 and 20, I think my assessment was about maybe 7 seconds, 8 seconds. And I remember what I said. I said, fully involved camper fire about 3 foot from my 30 by 40 pole barn. Now, I guess what my point is here is what I just said, fully involved camper fire 3 to 4 feet from a 30 by 40 pole barn. Do I really need to say that we need to set up water or we need to pull a hose off the truck? That's what I'm asking. Everybody knows we need to pull a hose off the truck. I did tell L4 or engine 4, I did tell them eventually to come in the driveway. But so I just want to make sure that there's got to be a balance between giving the information you need and talking for, too long of a time. That's my input, I guess.
I agree. And I guess if you've got the assessment time to do that, potentially it could eliminate some other radio traffic of which way do you want me to come in? Do you want me to come in the driveway? The trucks radioing the first truck to say that they're leaving. Again, I don't know. Is that necessary? It's not being recorded from the standpoint of the dispatching standpoint. I know we're hearing it, but we're also if people are actively using correctly, the IM responding, they're popping up on the screen. Now, again, I understand you're not staring at a screen the whole time, but if we're, looking at possibly, again, just exactly why we're having this training, to maybe think through how we're doing things and get it going.
Part of my comment, or part of my other comment here is, I said we had a fully involved camper fire 3 to 4 feet away from a 30 by 40 pole barn. I got a call from Station 2 wanting to know if they should come. Now, granted, I did say hold tight, but my point is, if I'm at Station 2 and I hear that traffic, I'm rolling. So that was the other thing that I've had when I've been on scene first is my phone's ringing in my ear because somebody's trying to call my cell phone because they can't get through on the radio. I got a truck calling me. You got to be really careful about how much traffic is on that radio, especially when you're calling command or the first guy on scene. So just something to be aware of. You got to be real careful of that.
All right, so this one's a little further back. It's more somebody driving. It's almost like you're driving down the street here.
Okay. So I really haven't seen what kind of fire it is yet. I'm gonna wait until I get closer. Okay, engine 4 is on scene. We got a single-story residence. I got fire coming out of the corner. I would just say coming out of the corner of the building. Flame showing. That's about it at this point. Now I can see a little bit more, but like I said, if I say I got flames showing on a single-story residential unit, there is more information I can give, but at that point, that's probably the most they need to hear, in my opinion. Now, eventually, I guess that's what I'm trying to get at is the fact that eventually there's a lot more information you can give the trucks, which I did the other night. I didn't try to give that all at once. So right now I would probably be trying to give some instructions as to where the hydrants are and where I want the trucks to sit at.
So maybe one of the things I didn't explain entirely clearly too is that, as we talked about before, the size up is an ongoing. So correct, Dave. So your initial size up was spot on. I'm only going to give this much information. Then as you get between trucks or whatever the case may be, then you can reassess and say, I want truck to do this. I want this truck to come in this way. I want tankers to start coming in this way. So that's considered the size up, I guess. We don't necessarily need to, I'm not saying you need to make a 30-second or a 45-second response, but if we hit all of these points on the initial one quickly, hopefully that it will give the incoming trucks and it'll lessen that traffic. We won't have engine, there was really no reason for engine one to call and say, should I respond? That's just a training issue.
All right.
So again, just no right or wrong, but I think this helps us, all of us, talk it through, honestly.
I agree. I definitely agree that in that situation there, I should turn right around when the time is right, and the trucks need to know direction. I'm sure Jim will agree with that. Is the hydrant 100 feet west of the scene or anything like that you can give them trucks, I'm sure is invaluable.
Pull in, back in. That seems to be a common question. Do you want me to pull in? Do you want me to back in?
Right. I'll be honest with you. I made a mistake the other night. Had that pole barn started off. I told engine 4 to drive in. Should have never done that. The second he drove in, we were tongue tied to get a tanker to him. So that was a bad call of mine when I said pull in, and I know I told him to pull in.
But like I said, just working through it. No right, wrong, or criticizing. Just I think it helps to talk through it. So. All right, let's see here. All right, Jim, I'll give this one to you. I'm going to fast forward it here in a second, but can you see it?
Yeah, I didn't know if I was supposed to go now or wait till you get done fast forwarding.
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't see the car now. Oh, there it is. All right. 7200 Lindsey Fire on scene of a single vehicle, fully involved car fire. Vehicles on the side of the road. Utility lines overhead. Engine 4 will be pulling a line, extinguishing the fire.
Yep. So I want you guys to watch where these people pull up at. I want to fast forward it all the way up here. And watch where they stop the rig.
Downwind of the smoke.
Downwind, and they get out and they start working, and the officer gets out, no pack on, and he just walks up here and he's standing in the smoke. He's just watching the other guys. This guy's trying to hit a hydrant in the smoke. There's nobody on this side of the fire. And if, again, I didn't turn the volume up, but look at the way the flames are whipping. You can hear the wind whooshing past the guy's cell phone. Like it was a heavy wind going that way, a strong wind going that way.
Maybe they're looking for a new pumper.
They're taking their sweet old time.
Well, and they definitely had an option here. They could have pulled up around the corner a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it was not going that hot that it would have done anything, and they would have been in a whole better situation from an attack standpoint.
I would have used the deck gun, hit her hard from the yard.
Yeah. So,
Holy
hey, Garrett, you listening?
Yep.
All right, this is yours.
Okay.
7200 Lindsey Fire on scene. We have a fully engulfed RV on the side of the road. There are power lines overhead and plenty of brush on the side of the road beside the RV.
Okay, good assessment. Anybody else see any other issue that potentially could arise?
The only.
Yeah, oh, sorry, Russ.
He said that there's electric lines above, but I would definitely let him know that the electric lines are involved.
Yeah,
I
so
see that now up there.
I was gonna say that vehicle is not secure and it's on a hill. As soon as that cable burns through, that vehicle's taking off.
yeah, and if you look,
I wondered if underneath the vehicle too, it looked like flames, like maybe fuel spilling.
Propane tanks.
the guy doesn't get a real good shot of it, but there it exploded. He actually put his camera down when it exploded. But again, talking about placement, he's not a professional neither, just by the way. But the truck, they parked the trucks, again, like Jim said, they parked downhill. Now, granted, when they first got there, they probably could have drove past it, and stayed over in the grass and got past and got in front of it. But again, like Jim said, they don't have, this isn't secured. It's just sitting there burning. There's personal cars down at the bottom of the hill. Somebody should be down there telling those people to move. Just again, things that we're looking at. Thanks, Garrett. Nice job. So again, this must be on an interstate or a freeway somewhere, but watch how, this is they had to be the truck driver. I don't know who else, unless somebody pulled over and started watching it, but the fuel burning, and this is 16 seconds. That's 23. A minute. And people are just still driving by like, campfire. Here's a minute 30, the fuel tank erupts. I don't know if you've seen it. You'll see it on the right, on the driver's side, or the tire, one of the two. Look at that guy.
Yeah.
Death defying. But again, we're doing our assessment here. Truck on fire would not be an accurate description, right? So we'd want to say, this is a semi. Obviously, we have fuel leaking that's on fire, burning across the ground. I couldn't get close enough. I couldn't see if there was any kind of placards or anything on the truck itself or on the trailer, but just some videos I seen, and again, they do a pretty decent job. They got their trucks blocking the interstate. They got a patrol keeping people over, keeping traffic moving. So this is one. This is a Tesla. So we were talking about electric vehicles the other day. They put a 4,000 BTU torch underneath on one of the battery cells and heated it. Within 13 seconds, this is what it looked like, and they burn it to a crisp. One of the things that they talked about in the and I don't think we talked about it the other night, was once they got the actual flame extinguished, they actually they had those rescue jacks that they blocked the tires on the passenger side, and they put the rescue jacks on the driver's side, and they actually picked the car up so the bottom was tilted up, and they actually was spraying water underneath on the battery pan. It was cooling the battery pan because they weren't able to actually really effectively get any water on it trying to go underneath because it had burnt down. So it might be something that we think about when we cool. The other thing, I found a really good video, and I'll post it online. It's about a 10-minute video that IFSA did, and it's all on electric cars. And they said that generally the rule of thumb is once you get it extinguished, use your thermal camera to make sure the battery cell is close to ambient temperature for 45 minutes without the addition of any more water before we would release it for a tow truck or anybody like that to take it. Obviously, it's still potential, but that was their suggestion or their recommendation based on research, is that the battery cells, the battery area would be ambient temperature for 45 minutes before. So again, just a video here of, you know, potentially what our assessment. Now, obviously, we don't get to see what happened, but so I know you guys are a little behind me, but you know, we pull up. Basically, we see this, you know, a T-bone. Hopefully, there was no one in the passenger side, but obviously, the other guy, the guy in the black car, the passenger and the driver got out because they're walking around. But you know, just you know, two motor vehicles, passenger cars, vehicles, occupants from first vehicle appear to be out and walking. I will be assessing the second vehicle, you know, so on and so forth. Here's another one. If nothing else, they're fun to watch.
No.
So we pull up on this one. This one, in my mind, you know, obviously we can see the tracks back here from the tractor, but if you weren't super paying attention, possibly, you know, did he hit coming the other way? The tractor got over too far, and the car was traveling towards us instead of away from us and ran into the back end. You know, obviously the guy in the tractor was moving around. I don't know about the guy in the car. And the other thing we can't see coming from this way is, do we have any issue on the other side of this? So as we pull up, you know, I can see we have one, you know, motor vehicle struck the back of a, I don't know what that is, a big cart being pulled by a farm tractor. I'll be out assessing to see patients and if we have any other vehicles involved, you know, on the, I'll call this the north side. I will try to turn my share computer sound. So this I found, and it's kind of interesting. These were Sizeups that kind of use that ideal type situation from Stockton, California. So I'm going to turn this on, and hopefully you guys will be able to hear it. You may need to turn up your speakers, but most of them do a pretty good assessment, and they're not 30 or 40, 40 seconds. I just thought it'd be something maybe to hear.
Second in, help us with the line. Engine 2's on scene, single-story, single-family dwelling. We got the front porch on fire. Looks like it may be going in the basement. Engine 2's going to be stretching a line, looking for basement access. Second in, help us with the line. We'll need water supply.
Engine 2, 10-4, Battalion 1.
Control 2, Engine 6 is on scene. We have a two-story Victorian, which is heavily involved. Got a hydrant right in front. We're going to be hitting it with a deck gun. This will be Acacia Command. I got the car in charge. Command.
10-4, Engine 6, Battalion 1, copy.
Control 2, Engine 12, single-story residence. We had a good working fire. Got water behind us about 150 feet. It's a warp hydrant. Engine 12, hold on live line.
Engine 12, 10-4, Battalion 1, copy.
Control 2, Engine 6 is on scene. Single story, single family dwelling. It looks like a word up residence. We got fire through the roof. Looks like we're going to distance. We got some exposure problems to the north. There's a hydrant about 200 feet ahead of us. This will be passing command to Battalion 1 on scene.
10-4, Battalion 1, copy.
Left here.
Okay. Control 2, Engine 9's on scene. Single story, single family residence. Got the front porch, and it looks like the front half of the building's on fire. We're going to need a water supply.
10-4, need water supply. Battalion 1, copy.
10-4, hold off and repeat. Battalion 1's on scene. We've got a full involved, the broom factory, be defensive. Truck 2 and engine 2, prepare for water tower. This be Scott Command, Palmer CIC, command post located. Scott's Russell structure.
10-4.
Control 2 engine 9, we're on scene. We have a large abandoned apartment complex. We have a fire in the basement and the rear of the building. Engine 9 is going to be pulling. Engine 3/4 line, we're going to need water supply, and I'll let you know if we're going to be defensive.
Control 2 command, give me a second, Warren.
Single story structure, every fire to the rear of the structure. Outdoor, extended into the structure, we need a water supply. Pull our live line.
Engine 3, engine 2,
We're going to pull inside, we're going to knock down the outside. The time when I copy, call this 8th Street command post, okay, that's fine. Engine 5, I'm seeing single story, single family dwelling, heavy fire showing from the rear of the structure. We'll be pulling a live line, we need the second engine to assist with water to its
Engine 5, 10-4, battalion 1, copy.
Control 2, engine 3 is on scene. We got a single story, single family. We got a detached garage, fully involved in the back. We're going to be stretching a line. There's a water supply in the back of the line.
10-4, engine 3, battalion 1, copy.
Time when I'm on scene with Chief 1. Control 2, engine 9 is on scene. Single story house, heavy fire showing. We'll be pulling a line. We're going to need help with water and get a second line. We're waiting for 2 and 2 out.
10-4, engine 9.
Battalion 2 is on scene in Silver Command. We got a good fire with a forcible entry problem. We also got a critical exposure to the south.
I got it, buddy.
We're going to need help with the first line and an exposure line.
Marino.
Keely's in charge.
Engine 9 and engine 2 are on scene. We've got a 2-story apartment complex. We've got heavy fire showing. Engine 9. We're going to need a water supply. We'll be a backup line. Units are on set.
10-4, engine 9, battalion 1, copy.
Time 110-4. Control 2, engine 6 on scene, single family, single story dwelling, heavy fire showing from the rear of the structure. We're going to call on engine 3/4. This is going to be on the 1800 block of Del Rio. Tell Michael passing command. Control 2, engine 6, we're going to need a distance to the first line and a water supply.
10-4.
Engine 6.
Engine 3/4, buddy. Just pull into the garage.
So there's only a little bit left of it, but could you guys actually hear it? I know some of it's a little inaudible, but so to kind of go back to like what Dave said, is that they weren't describing everything they seen, but they were hitting the high points. So I thought it was a good illustration of, you know, not that what they did was perfect, but a good illustration of kind of using those 4 or 5 ideal acronym type situation and hitting those high points.